Hello everyone and welcome to a new ServiceTonic video. In this video, we will give you an overview on field management. We will learn how to create or edit fields as well as the different configuration options available, such as managing permissions for the field or adding translations depending on the language. But before we begin, I'll show you an example of the most common process for a service desk field. For this, we will start by creating a field in the Field Management section. First, we need to access the Administration, Service Desk, and then Field Management. The example we will use today will be the commitment date, the date by which the IT department commits to resolving the incident by a set deadline. We click on the Add button and start by naming it in the system. And I need to remind you that this name must not contain any spaces or special characters. So for example, we will add commitment date. Then for the label, we can add the text we want to display, such as commitment date. Next, we choose the field type, which in this case would be a date field. Then we can assign it some default permissions, which we will leave as optional in this case. With optional permission, we can view the field's content and have the choice of entering a value or not. After this, we can create the field. Just click on the Save button. Alright, the field has been created successfully. Once a new field is created, we need to add it to a page layout so it can be used in the tickets. To do this, simply search for the field in the field list and drag it into the relevant container. In this case, we will add it to the header section. Once added, we just need to save and the field is now correctly added to the ticket. To complete the example, let's open a new ticket to verify that the field appears correctly. And here we have it, commitment date. Here we can select the deadline by which the IT department would commit to resolving the incident. Now that we've completed this brief example, let's go back to the Field Management section and start with the explanation. In field management, we need to remember that the field list consists of three different types: service desk ticket fields, contact fields, which can only have certain aspects modified, such as permissions, translations, the label, etc., because creating or deleting them must be done from the contact administration section. Then we have the schedule fields, which are those used for preventive maintenance, or CMMS, which stands for Computerized Maintenance Management System. Today, we will explain the ticket fields. First, let's choose a field and start with the different configuration options. First, we have the Add button, which allows us to create a new field. Then, we have the Remove button. And I need to remind you that in order to remove a field, it must not be linked to any dependencies or automations. Next, we have the Duplicate option, which allows us to duplicate fields from other services. In this case, we will choose a field called Age, which belongs to the HR service. Here, we will enter the name, select it, give it a name, accept it, and the field would be duplicated. As you can see, the field has been created correctly, and from now on, we can use it in this new service. Next, we also have the option to import fields from an external file. ServiceTonic uses .csv files for this purpose. And here we have the permissions option. Depending on the role within the service, we can assign a specific permission. For example, for the agent role, we could change the current permission, which has no value, to, for example, required. meaning that agents must enter a value. ServiceTonic also offers the option to assign permissions depending on the ticket status. If the ticket is in the request status, we could change the permission from required to another value. So depending on the status, we can choose different permissions. Next, we have the translations option, where we can translate both the label and, for drop-down and multi-selection fields, the values of the field into different languages. Finally, for drop-down and multi-selected fields, let's take an example here. We have an extra option that allows us to import the field values directly from an external file. Once we've covered all the options, let's move on to the field properties themselves. To do this, we will create a new field and start with the general properties. These are the properties that all fields share, regardless of their type. Name, this is the field's identifier. Once the field is created, its system name can no longer be changed. Then we have the label. This is the name that will be displayed in the tool. As mentioned before, we can add translations for each language, but if no translations are added, the default value would be this one. Then we have the type. This defines the type of the field. We then have the permissions. These are the default permissions that can be assigned to the field. And then we have the schedule fields. When this option is checked, the field will automatically be included in the CMMS planning. And finally, for drop-down fields, there's the categorization option. When checked, this field will serve as a categorization field in the service catalog. Once the general properties of the fields are configured, we need to configure the properties specific to the field type. Let's start with the true-false field type. If we don't check the default value box, the field will default to no in the ticket view. If we check the box, it will default to yes. Now, for numeric fields, we can set the scale, the accuracy, and validation type for the field. The scale determines the maximum number of digits that can be entered before the decimal point, and the accuracy determines the number of digits after the decimal point. In terms of validation, if we leave it as no validation, any value can be entered. If we set it to exactly, the user will need to enter the exact value specified. Other options include minimum, maximum, and between for setting specific value ranges. Now, for drop-down fields, we can add values, for example, PC, monitor, etc. Remove individual or all values, and even sort them. We can also set a default value that will appear when a ticket is open, but can still be changed if needed. And then we also have the multi-line text field, which is ideal for storing comments as it provides more space than a single line text field. For a single line text field, we can validate the input based on the exactly, minimum, maximum, or between. Then we have the time field. And the label field is a field type that only displays label without storing any additional data. Now that we've explained all the field types and their configurations, let's show an example of fields applied to a ticket. In this case, the title field is a single-line text field, and this is a special field created by ServiceTonic by default. Fields created by default are called system fields. For example, in this ticket, we might enter the PC is not working. Then we have a drop-down field for the priority, where we could set priority to critical since the PC is not working and we can't work. Next, we would have an expected resolution date, where we might set a date such as solving the issue in 1 day. Next, we go to the ticket details and take a look at the label field, which, as mentioned earlier, only displays a label. Then we have a drop-down field for the issue type. In this case, since the PC is not working, we would choose Incident. For the category, if we know what the issue is, we could select Hardware, Software, or Network. In this case, we will select Hardware. And here we have True and False fields, where a single click can toggle the value. Another is a multi-line text field for observations, where we can enter additional information. And that's it for the video on field management. If you have any questions, comments, or suggestions, feel free to contact our support team through the usual channels. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.